Welcome to Season 2, Episode 68 of Comic Book Nation, the official podcast of ComicBook.com. I'm your host, Kofi Outlaw, and today I have with me a host of gaming experts. I got Matthew Aguilar.
What up?
Our gaming editor, Roland Bishop.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
And pre-order man around town himself, Mr. Brandon Davis is with us.
What's up? Hello.
If you're seeing this episode, then obviously you see the title. We don't usually condense our titles to one thing, but we had a lot to go over today on the subject of PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5, we had another event. I feel like we're having events like every week, but we're having these PlayStation 5 events. And this is the real one where we got all the big information we wanted. Pricing, release date, kind of confirmation of formats of consoles, games that we're going to be getting, games that are going to be coming down the line. So we have a lot to unpack on that. But before we get to that, we do have a couple news items to kind of talk about on the DC and Marvel side as kind of things get back into production. And so that's good news. So why don't we start there before we get into gaming, and then we're going to end with some in-depth breakdowns of things that are happening in comics right now. So so we're basically just geeking out on this episode, which is good. Getting back to the core of things. Sorry, mainstream audience. Well, here's one for the mainstream. Yeah, we got one for the mainstream audience here. The Batman is back in production. Star Robert Pattinson has been cleared of COVID-19, and cameras are back rolling on the Batman. So, yay! I mean, that's good. I mean, we were wondering, because production got shut down because a crew member or crew members who have not been named were kind of diagnosed with COVID. Then Robert Pattinson was diagnosed with COVID. That was the big one. And everything came to a screeching halt. And there was some kind of back and forth. But the bottom line was they had shut down and quarantined the cast and crew. There were just some auxiliary crew, like building sets and doing whatever auxiliary work they could do. But it was unknown how long this would last, because we even got stipulations for what Warner Brothers kind of had to do to clear all this. And it was like, get everybody who's tested positive cleared, keep track of everybody in the cast and crew, try to trace this thing, try to make sure no germ ever comes on set ever again. And no, I'm just kidding. But it was a pretty.
It's kind of true though.
Yeah. And it was like a big hold your breath and crap your pants moment, because if this kept ballooning, if it kept being more and more people showed up with infections and subsequent days, it was like a 2-week clock that had to start over again. And it would have been a big mess. So thankfully, it all seems to be all clear. Batman's getting back to production. Fingers crossed that everybody stays healthy and everything stays okay. We've had many debates when this happened. I think BD was with us when we talked about this. And we were talking about the NBA and all that stuff, and how different businesses are trying to cope with the shared realities of trying to get back into business and deal with, the realities of COVID-19 infection. So Hollywood's trying to kind of chug along and keep things safe. But this was the biggest high-profile test I think we've seen so far, and it looks like Warner Brothers managed to kind of get a handle on it. So, here, like I said, here's hoping going forward. What is this? What was that flex?
What was that?
He's the highest profile person to have it.
Oh, The Rock? Oh, yeah. I meant in an active film production right now.
Oh.
Right.
I couldn't tell what the symbol was.
I was about to say, Kofi, delusions.
No, man, I love The Rock, and I even mentioned him in my Batman article. Every time I
didn't get my I was a Robert Pattinson reference in a conversation about Robert Pattinson, but I'll see myself out. It's fine.
Oh man, all right. But Jesus. But on the Marvel side, we got some good news too. Falcon and the Winter Soldier's been back in production. We got final big confirmation of that, because Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie were posting photos from the set of them clowning around while social distancing. So Falcon, the Winter Soldier, is back on track again. And these are big deals, because we were wondering, specifically the Batman and Falcon and Winter Soldier, these are big high-profile comic book, TV, and movie productions, respectively. And we were kind of wondering about those release dates, right? Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to arrive in the fall, and we were all kind of now it's just, I don't think it's been official, but it is 2021, right? There's unless they stick this on the last day of December 31st, Brandon Davis we're expecting this in 2021 now, right?
Yeah, I think Christmas Day is probably when we'll see it. So
Okay, there you go. I mean, that works. I'll take that present. So yeah, in the Batman, of course, we're trying to keep it on track because we all like that October date. We actually liked it better than a summer date for what this movie looks like it's bringing to the table. And we were hoping that no more delays and stuff, we can keep this movie on track for October 2021. So it looks like we might be tentatively on track for that. So like from both cases. So that's good stuff. Finally, we got a new Disney Plus commercial because they're hyping up what they're bringing to the table for fall. You know, in a TV content season that is a little more bare than we're used to. Disney Plus wanted to remind people they got some stuff coming. Don't forget, it's not just that Mandalorian. They have some other things. And while I don't care so much about the other things besides the Mandalorian, there was one big confirmation that we kind of can be happy about, which is that WandaVision seems to be confirmed now that we'll get that before 2020 lets out.
that's what I meant is coming December 25th. Falcon Winter Soldier, not this year. No chance.
Oh, you just crushed me.
Wow. Boy, he got so excited.
Sorry. Falcon and Winter Soldier, not
I was like,
this year.
You're the
The
Marvel
roller
guy.
coaster of
I know.
emotions.
You're like the Marvel guy. I thought you knew. I was like, oh, man.
WandaVision, if I was a betting man, I'd bet the house on Christmas Day. Falcon and Winter Soldier, not happening this year.
Oh,
Also,
man.
Kofi, Krypton did not get canceled. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I just thought I'd continue the roller coaster.
No, yeah, that like I actually was so confused there. I didn't know what to do. What? I was like,
You're
really?
welcome.
Is this,
You
I was
were
like, is this
so-
breaking news? I was like, what's happening here? You guys are cruel. It's 2020. I already have
Yeah,
enough.
no, Falcon and Winter Soldier has a lot of production left, and there are things in that show that they can't release until after Black Widow comes out, and nobody knows. You're muted, I think.
Yes, I am muted. I'm expressing my disdain still and my pain. But I was saying, agreeing with you with that's where I was going next with this was these delays were important, especially in the Marvel case, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is such a row of dominoes, and kind of figuring out how we get these things and where isn't just about when they get done with COVID and kind of get done production, like you said. It seems pretty clear, and Marvel never wants to spoil these things, so they're kind of in a sticky situation PR-wise, where they can't tell us like outright, like, yeah, you kind of got to see Black Widow before you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or vice versa.
I mean, though, why couldn't they? To be like just like that, like not getting in the spoil.
Because
Why couldn't they just say
they
that?
budgeted for snipers in 2020, and that's what they.
I just don't understand. We're gonna talk about communication a lot this episode, but I would just say like that would have been a huge thing. Like, hey, we can't release that until you see one, and people would have been like, oh yeah, duh. It would have made sense.
I think it's just like they're the only ones who don't they don't say anything.
I know
ever.
And also,
so
you are the answer to your own question. You realize
well,
because
well,
of
so
you,
the-
because of people like you and
yeah.
me and us. No, like all of us. Because as soon as they tell us that we can't, like, comic book officers goes into like lockdown DEFCON mode as Jim Viscardi starts putting together string theories about why we can't possibly see this
That's
one
what we
without
have
the
Reddit
other, and like and it's just like so. They just don't want to invite all that speculation. They don't say anything.
but it happens anyway. So what
But
does it matter?
yeah.
We're gonna take them not saying anything and spin 6 stories out of it. I mean, whatever. Like it's moot. Point is moot.
But that's more about us than anybody else, I think. Yeah. But I would like to know something. You know, I'm just trying not to like start anything because I've been critical of Marvel's PR choices in 2020 while DC is coming up kind of crazy strong. So,
Well,
yeah,
here's the thing. There have been a number of castings that have happened behind the scenes. If I knew them, I would share them right here. I don't know, but I do know which characters. Some major characters have been cast. I just don't know who's playing them. And so, like, I think they might be planning something like that. That this is just me speculating, but I know that they have gathered quite a bit of news and like opportunities to share things that would be very exciting. So, I mean, they're just once things are more certain, I think that we're going to have a similar day where Marvel just kind of blasts everything. But it might not be anytime soon. I genuinely don't know that.
While Brandon's on camera, can we ask, is it Nova? And look into his eyes, everyone. See if the joy is there. You can tell.
Listen, if it was Nova, I would be in Burbank auditioning right now.
All right.
that's a good. You've learned.
Save that
things
clip,
on this.
everybody.
Yeah.
Save that clip for a year from
You've
now.
learned things in this media training circuit. Very nice dodge. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like January 5th, 2021. Marvel's, hey, you survived 2020. Big preview event for the next, 3 years for all survivors of the dystopia. Here's what Marvel movies you can see, and series are coming out. Yeah, release dates. And we got new stuff. But in all seriousness, I mean, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So my feelings are crushed, but okay. I mean, you ended it on a slightly more positive, kind of vague note, but yeah, all right. So
What were we talking about?
She-Hulk just got cast.
Hey,
Is that just
Literally,
come
as we're recording.
That's one of the characters I was talking about.
live reaction.
That's one of the characters I was talking about.
Tatiana Maslany. I'm
What?
that name. Yes.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? That's my.
No.
That's my.
Yeah.
I can't curse. That's
Whoa,
my
you
girl.
almost did.
I did. Oh man, I almost
almost
cursed.
did.
Ooh. Gotta pull it together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Man.
I'm like,
Okay,
I'm
so
blanking.
listen.
Oh my God, I love Tatiana Maslany. Oh man, Orphan Black.
I have never seen Kofi get so excited. I don't
Dude,
think I've ever seen that.
She
That's
is
awesome.
awesome. She was awesome in Orphan Black, and she was just awesome in Perry Mason, like recently.
I need to watch that. That's
is-
on my
yeah.
list.
I mean, that is great, and she's the person who can bring like the drama of a She-Hulk and the comedy, like, and I'm really kind of psyched about that.
I'll say this.
Awesome. Good
Since that
stuff.
came out, that's one of the ones I was talking about. I had two. The other one is Miss Marvel. I just don't know who's playing her, but they found Miss Marvel.
Okay, well there you go. Your secret lasted real long. Thanks, Brent. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? By the time people hear this, maybe it'll be out. Because I knew She-Hulk was cast. I just didn't know who.
Good
Oh
casting.
man, that is woo. Yeah, that's great.
Everybody's got to take a moment here.
Ric
Really
Flair
let it.
came in here.
Really let it settle in.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh man,
Yeah,
Miss Marvel's
so
coming
that's
soon,
exciting.
too.
Yeah,
Oh,
Miss
so
Marvel's
excited.
probably coming soon. It sounds like, but yeah, Tatiana Maslany.
Maybe we'll get two breakings in one episode.
Yeah, that
Who
is
knows?
Wow.
that is really good. Dad, I'm happy about that. And
I'll
to
make
see
a
her in the
fun fact.
movies, like, yeah, that's gonna be great. Like,
So that's going to go.
yes.
I'm assuming this is info in that story, but that is supposed to go into production early next year, and I imagine they might have that on Disney Plus by the end of next year. So that's great.
Nice.
Great news.
Yeah, man, I feel a lot better about this podcast. Sorry, guys, we're gonna probably have to change the title. I don't know.
Why are you not feeling good about it? Jeez.
Well, I mean, I'm still on actual news. We don't have like a lot of actual news. It was pretty dry since our last podcast. This is huge though, so this is great. Thank you, podcast gods. Everybody, keep an eye on Slack.
Day of announcements, because
Yeah. Boom. That is good. And we get to have a podcast where people actually hear us talk about something relevant before next week. It's all-
I know we don't have to get the tweets that are always like, "Oh, it happens every time." It's
Yeah,
the
no.
next show, and like,
Yeah,
no,
we got it
caught
this time. She-Hulk, baby.
We
We
caught
know
it.
who it is. So, yeah, so we just did an article on this. The series is also being written by Kat Corio. Kat Corio, who's a TV director who's done some big comedy series. Like she did a big stint on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She's done Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She
That's your
did
favorite
the Mick, which was It's Always Sunny spinoff. With one of their characters, launched their own solo series. So yeah, it kind of just gives you a hint of where you're going. She did Modern Family, so she has a mix of doing kind of edgier comedy and kind of mainstream comedy. And they hired Rick and Morty writer Jennifer Gao to do this, so you can see where they're kind of going with this. Like it feels like they're going to make a superhero kind of courtroom drama, but also one that deals with kind of gender issues through the lens of She-Hulk and all that, and kind of use that comedy. And so I'm looking forward to the series very much, especially now that I know who's starring in it. Like, that's great. And just to see her and Mark Ruffalo together is going to be awesome. Like, they're both great actors, so that's going to be fun to watch. And yeah, so live reactions. Thank you, Mr.
boy.
Ron Bishop. Yeah, so WandaVision, that's still a thing too. So watch that. All right.
Wait, that was the cherry on top for that whole segment, by the way, of like, hey, there's hope, guys. And then this came in and like stole its thunder. Now it's just like, oh yeah, WandaVision 2020. There you go. Good deal.
Yeah, I mean,
Poor
Still a
WandaVision.
but yeah, that's great. That is, and unexpected. That's not like at all what I had expected them to kind of go with. So, there you go. I know everybody's gonna be like, it should be Gina Carano. Like, stop it.
And that's Kofi's alter ego on Twitter who will type that. Should have been Gina Carano.
Oh no, but all right, we're gonna take a
Kevin
break
Durant
now.
Burner account.
Oh, stop it! Stop bringing Katie and everything. We're gonna take a break now, pay some bills, come back. Let me deflate and kind of get my cool back. Whew, I do declare. Then we'll come back and talk everything about this PS5 event and what we're getting there. All right, we're back. After all that dramatic flair, let's get a little bit more analytical as we break down everything that was revealed in the most recent PS5 event. Like I said at the start of the show, this is the one we've actually been waiting for, which makes me wonder what all the events were about, but all the other ones, because this one had the actual goods.
Kof. They are the trailer teasers of.
Yeah, I know. We're now
gaming.
having teaser events and stuff like that. So this is where we are in 2020. A launch event, teaser event. All right. So this was the one where we got all the information. And after Xbox kind of put out its pricing, we've all been waiting to see like what there's been rumors about Sony and them kind of, going to battle with each other about what to do with this pricing. But we finally got official pricing, got a release date. Mr. Roland Bishop, why don't you take us through the big stuff and, on the console, maybe Matt, you could take some of the game stuff.
Yeah, sure. So the big thing, of course, like you said, pricing release date. We're looking at $499, $399 for the disc drive one and the all digital one. November 12th is when it's going to release in the United States. It's going to release November 19th globally.
That was my big surprise. That was a lot sooner than I thought we were getting that console. Like, for some reason.
Oh, as soon as Xbox said November 10th, there was no way PlayStation wasn't going to be right in that same time frame.
Yeah, I think I missed the Xbox November 10th thing. So so both of those were both sooner than I thought. Man, I thought we were going to be in December, but all right, I'm ready.
Yeah, so next gen console launch officially, both sets November is when everybody's going to kind of go wild for it. That said, pre-orders were not handled particularly well.
So pissed.
Yeah. First off, they weren't really addressed in the show at all. Sony, after the fact, was like, oh, also pre-orders tomorrow. But then a bunch of retailers seemed to jump the gun. And so a bunch of people are mad about that. I know Brandon got his pre-order in.
Very mad.
Matt did not.
And by the way, I'm very mad. And also, I have 2 pages pulled up. So if during this podcast they come available, you won't see me for a minute because I'm going to be ordering mine.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where the event itself showed off a bunch of stuff. I mean, Matt, I'm sure, is going to talk about a lot of this stuff. But it led off with Final Fantasy 16, which is a huge get. We know it's PlayStation 5 console exclusive. It showed off Demon Souls, more of Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales. Like, just there's so much really going on for the PlayStation as compared to Xbox that even with all of sort of the missteps, you look at the PlayStation 5 as the next gen console, at least right now, until we officially get like, I don't know, Halo Infinite, something for the Xbox Series X/S. So that's kind of where we stand with that.
Agreed, Kofi. Agreed. I can't.
Yeah, if you're watching this, I dipped out because I had this solicitor in my neighborhood. I'm on my neighborhood watch. There's some solicitors that are more aggressive than others, and I had prime time Mr. Aggressor at my door. I had to go handle that real quick and give him a reverse lesson in what aggressive anti-soliciting is all about. All right, so I'm sorry I missed that, but it sounds like we got a good information breakdown about the consoles.
Yep.
I'll say that $399, that is a perfect price point right there for me. It feels next gen enough, but it's kind of doable enough that I feel like I can at launch, because I was saying, I never go at first. So I'm just going to wait until the bundles and all that. But now I'm kind of like, I don't know. And I'm going all digital. We were talking about this on Twitter. Fans were asking us, and it's just like, I'm with Matt. At this point, I don't need a disc. I'm going digital.
Keep in mind, too, the PlayStation 5, what we know about it is that the $499 one has the disc drive. The $399 does not, but still plays the same level of games. It's literally like just the disc drive ripped out of there. Whereas the Xbox, the $299S, is all digital like the lower-end PlayStation, but does not play games at 4K and so on. Like, it's not as powerful.
Yeah, all right. I mean, yeah. And that's also, we were also talking about that a couple of shows ago. That has its uses too, because there are a lot of people who want quote unquote next gen that don't have 4K TVs and do all that stuff, and that'll appeal to them, I guess. But no, this sounds actually like a pretty good price point. So, Mr. Brandon Davis, did you really get the last pre-order in Nashville? Is that a
Dude, the story of how I got this. Listen, and I know Matt's gonna hate me telling this.
I do.
Did you say
Because
hi?
I hated it on
Hi,
Twitter.
I'm Brandon Davis. Here's my Twitter account. There's
I
my
hated it on
C8.
Twitter. Yeah.
Listen,
Pulled up in my C8.
my mom comes over for dinner, and we're eating dinner. I open up Twitter as soon as I finish because I can't stay off Twitter for more than 10 straight minutes. And I see IGN. I like IGN. I follow them. I see them tweeting about the pre-orders, and I was like, wait, what? The event said tomorrow. So I click the link, and it says they're sold out at Target. They're sold out here. I was like, what? So I went to Target. I went to Walmart. I went to Best Buy, all their websites. Couldn't get one. GameStop website crashed. Couldn't get on it. Called 7 different GameStops in Nashville. All sold out. Target and Walmart not doing the sales in person. Called one more GameStop, the one at the Opry Mills Mall. Anybody from Nashville knows the Opry Mills. And they're like, listen, we have 1 digital pre-order left, but we're closed. Like, I was like, can you take my card over the phone? Like, please, I need it. That showcase was so good. So they couldn't. They wouldn't do it. He was like, where are you? I was like, I'm in Germantown. And the dude on the phone was just like, oof, that you're not close. And I was like, dude, I will get there fast. He was like, listen, if you hurry up, like, we can try. Like, we got to close down the store. We got to count the register. You know, we got to get – if we're still here, you can come in and have it. But if somebody comes up, if somebody's walking out of the mall or somebody walks in, like, we have to give it to them. That's just the rule. I was like, all right, dude. So I made it to the Opry Mills in record time, doing the speed limit and only the speed limit.
That's of course.
They're just so full of it.
And I sprinted. I was running through an empty closed mall, and somebody who I didn't even see them, I don't know where they were, they yelled, "Run, Forrest!" And I was just like, yes, thank you for the encouragement. Got to the store doors. The doors were locked. The dude who was on the phone came and opened it, and it was crazy because when he opened the doors, I actually heard like a ah! And I got in there. I got in my pre-order, and they're not doing like a midnight release or anything, but on November 12th, I can get in there, get my digital PS5. But then they still tried to sell me like a copy of Miles Morales, and I was like, yo, I just ordered a digital PS5. Why would I buy a hard copy of Miles Morales?
Got to keep those margins high.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got to get that upsell, man.
I respect it.
Because of the pandemic, they haven't been. I don't think they've been through the training yet.
Because when I walk in there with my PS4 and they say, we'll give you a piece of toast, like, you know?
Yeah, they haven't been through digital training yet, so they don't know all this yet. I think they're just going by old school default methods, which is to try to upsell you things. And they're going to be trying to wait till they actually upsell people who don't really know what they're doing and buying a digital copy and buy a bunch of like disc games. It's going to be fun. Those are returns I'm going to be sitting outside watching with popcorn.
And I mean, it's going to be interesting because I'm also like, I want to get an Xbox Series X. I might do one or the other. I mean, I think I'm going to get the PlayStation first, but I'm going to try to reserve an Xbox so that if I have the option to make that decision, I will. And if somebody else on the staff wants an Xbox, like maybe we'll have that pre-order because it'll be good for more people here to have them. But they go on sale Tuesday. But so I called GameStop this morning and I said, like, you know, is this going to go on sale earlier? Because like PlayStation wasn't supposed to start till today. And the guy on the phone said, he was just like, listen, Microsoft was much more organized in how they want this laid out.
Wow.
They were very clear. 10 a.m. on Tuesday. I shouldn't have said that. 11 a.m. everybody. 10 a.m. on Tuesday is when you can go in and get it. So, I mean, I'm going to go try to reserve one, and I'm probably going to end up picking one or the other. But I don't know. I'm not good at making reasonable financial decisions, so I might end up getting both and just being poor in the long run. But
I mean, this was pretty bungled. This was a pretty bungled launch. As of right now,
absolutely.
As of right now, Amazon is the only one that, while some people have been able to get in under the radar and get a few when it was briefly up, when the dogs were up at the page, and has a lot of people like not disliking dogs because that's what they have on their page when it's out. They're the only ones that have it. I mean, geez, even Sam's Club went live this morning at like, I forget what time it was, and had some. Someone fooled me. Good on you, because I was desperate. Someone fooled me with a Bed Bath & Beyond meme because I totally went there. It was like, no way. And I was like, went there. I was like, son of a, but whatever. Good on you.
I think what happened was Sony probably said sell them this day, and then probably one store or one outlet just started selling them, and then everybody else was like, all right, forget it. Let's just sell it.
Well, it's okay. So then, but Sony also had one of their high ups issue a statement that was very much saying like, hey, you're going to have plenty of time.
I think it was Eric Lempel.
Was it Eric? Yeah.
Head of marketing,
So that's the main issue that people have is that, oh, hey, you said we were going to have ample time. And also the one that really hits the wound, I didn't get these personally, but there's a lot of people posting the images of the emails from Sony that received them in their inbox saying, hey, you've been invited to get your early pre-order link to get a PS5 after they were all gone.
From the PlayStation store.
From the PlayStation store.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It's just been bungled from the beginning. However, crazily enough, the hype for this has just built because of this. And while there are so many people cussing out Sony right now on Twitter, it's not keeping people from wanting to go spend ridiculous amounts of money on eBay and buy consoles for like $1,000. Also, to all the people who bought multiples, screw you. I will tell you that now. I'll tell you that right here. Because I saw a couple pop up. Like, oh, I bought 4. Oh, let me buy 10 in my cart. Who wants one? It's like, oh.
I'm going to be completely honest. I am banned for life from eBay for doing that with PS4.
Dude, yeah, I just remember being in New York and when this current gen launched, and it was savagery in Manhattan. People trying to get
Dude, I ran through a Walmart in Columbia, South Carolina, and bought 3 PS4s.
Yeah, it was nuts, dude.
Ran through it.
Really nuts.
The lady was like, hey, don't run. So I did like a quick little oh, I'm not running, I swear. Look.
Technically, it's shuffling.
So let's get to the actual games.
Yeah, the games.
So this one we got a prolonged look at Miles Morales. We got to look at Genki. We got to look at Tinkerer, who is one of the bigger villains in the game. Doubtful that he'll be the main villain, but he is one of the major villains. We got to look at like gameplay. Everyone actually really dug the new footage of this whole bridge sequence that a lot of people were comparing to, well, many of the Spider-Man bridge sequences, both in the comics and in the movies, but especially Homecoming. So there was a lot of good reception to the footage. We then finally got the debut of Final Fantasy 16, which is going to be like the other Final Fantasies, or most of the other Final Fantasies, a completely new world, completely new characters, but we'll have like chocobos and all the things you know and love. We got
looks pretty intense, man.
Right? Yeah, and it is a return to more not traditional, but like more traditional medieval themes. It's not going to be like 4 guys in a car, even though I adore 15.
It kind of had that design of the character vibes, but the world they're in is back in like a medieval thing.
Yeah,
it's like kind of a mix of the like best of all worlds. Because I like that steampunk kind of thing they did, even the weird new age K-pop version. And like I also like the medieval stuff, so I'm hoping it kind of marries the two. So
and that whole like Phoenix Ifrit battle was amazing. Like there's a lot of cool stuff, and it's a substantial for an announcement trailer, which we're typically used to getting a logo and maybe an image of a dude or a person. This was pretty substantial for an announcement. Now the next time we will hear anything about it is 2021, so this is probably not coming out till I would say the earliest late 2021, most likely 2022.
Probably like a year from now or at the
Yeah,
earliest.
it's a minute. But for what they showed, it was pretty impressive. Also, we got the new God of War, somewhere JK is celebrating, announced. It was just a cool animation, the logo. It is God of War Ragnarok, correct, Rollin?
They have not officially given it a name, I believe. Everyone's saying it's either God of War 2 Ragnarok or God of War Ragnarok because of the way it was teased.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, I mean it was, and then of course we got a look at a bunch of other games, but the big thing that people came for was the release date, which they delivered on, and then of course the price. So overall, it was I feel like this one got people hyped in a big way. I mean, Brandon's a perfect representation of this. We've been telling Brandon about the PS5 for
Dude,
like
after that,
6
he was
months.
willing to risk his life.
And then he's driving across town and trying to get one. So I think it successfully got. I hope for Microsoft's sake, learn from it seems they are and get that pre-order thing in line, and hopefully it'll go a lot smoother.
Yeah.
So I hope Microsoft is learning about why people are so excited for PlayStation. Like, I love Xbox. It's obviously like I prefer the controller of Xbox. I prefer the interface of Xbox, but it just feels like Microsoft doesn't care about exclusive games. Like, and I think exclusive games are stupid in general. I prefer when they're on both consoles anyway. But I think that it's just clear that Sony has a much better finger on the pulse on like these games. Like even like what Demon Souls was that, I thought that looked dope too. Like I didn't know much about that, and that was one that I thought looked really fun. Like it's like Microsoft is just like, well, we have Halo, we have Gears of War, and I love those games, but I'm reaching a point now where I'm watching these showcases, and Sony just seems to care a lot more about getting you new, fresh games. Like Miles Morales is a perfect example. Like, and this was so well done because it's not a full game, right? It's like basically a glorified add-on to the first Spider-Man. It's somewhere between DLC and a full game. But that means that Sony and Insomniac were like, listen, we need to find a way to make a really exciting title, make it big enough that it can be maximum quality for launch, but also not small enough to feel like it's just a cash grab. Like, this looks like a really fun thing. But granted, we don't know the full size of the game. We haven't played it yet. But it's like that's such a smart play. And meanwhile, Microsoft rolls out Halo, and I feel like I'm watching a pre-viz version of Thanos on, like what is going on there?
From the people that originally brought you Sonic the Hedgehog.
I understand. Like, there's a couple of things that stick out about this. One, I feel like I don't hate exclusives at all. I love exclusives because it just harkens back to the console war stuff. I always love it. It's not like you don't get in the fist fights over it, obviously, but like it's a fun back and forth thing that's been part of gaming forever. So I don't have any issue with that. Look, it sucked when I couldn't play Rise of the Tomb Raider because it was exclusive to Microsoft for a year. But you know what? I played it once it was released and it was fine. Like, I moved on and survived with my life. Like, some games I don't have access to on a PlayStation. I can always buy the second one. But I don't have a problem with exclusives. I think that's what makes it. Otherwise, why are you buying any box? Just go buy a PC. Like, it doesn't make the part of the fun of a console is making them a little different, catering to a slightly different audience, and being on the pulse of things. I think that's really cool. So I love the idea. It sucks that I can't always play Gears, but oh well. The thing about Final Fantasy, though, it is a console exclusive for 6 months. Then after that, it goes to PC. And then at 12 months, it can go to a console. So Xbox will probably get it a year down the line. So, I mean, it is exclusive for a substantial amount of time. The other thing is that we didn't really touch on this, but the price. So Sony did have a few games, and Miles Morales was one of them, the Ultimate Edition, because the Ultimate Edition of the game will come with a remaster of Marvel's Spider-Man. And that one is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Roland, is it $69?
I believe it's $69, yeah.
$69.99, yeah. So obviously it's that long-awaited bump which I feel like I'm seeing a lot of hate on that on Twitter, and I totally understand why, as someone who has to like budget things. But at the same time, I feel like we kind of escaped the whole generation without moving up. And it was kind of like it was going to happen this generation, whether people wanted to or not. Like the size of these games and things like that, I'm amazed it didn't happen sooner. So it's only some games. Others are still at the $59 price point. Like Demon Souls is one of those. There was another game that I'm blanking on. Obviously when Final Fantasy comes out, that will assuredly be a higher price title. But I don't necessarily have so much of a problem with it because I understand the bigger these games get, the more intricate they get, the more expensive they are to put on. It's a long-awaited thing.
Yeah. So
Soon
the thing,
play $200, we don't see you for a year.
the thing to keep in mind for these is that, as much as we like to think about it as like being console wars between Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, really they're selling very different things to people. Microsoft's whole pitch this generation is, yes, we're putting out this new generation of consoles, but you can keep playing your old console. We're going to keep releasing stuff for both. PlayStation's pitch is, look, we're putting out this great new console. It's got some incredible looking stuff on it. You're going to want it, but also the stuff is going to release on PS4, which is not super clear.
They slyly snuck that in.
Miles Morales, Horizon Forbidden West, both confirmed for PS4 releases as well. Like, they're going to come out on the old consoles. And this is a smart move, but it's not been the main thrust of PlayStation's marketing so far, whereas for Microsoft, it has been. The idea for Microsoft is, look, we'll get you in the system. You're going to get Game Pass. You're going to have access to all of these games across these things. If you want 4K, you got 4K, but you don't need it. Whereas PlayStation is like, no, we're still kind of in the more better new, like this is the new generation of stuff. It's going to look better.
And obviously, though, that is such a big the difference with like the Microsoft thing, right? One, they have a built-in system into their next gen that is lower, that is that lower tier anyway with the S. So they're already like going into a generation with that as part of the package. Whereas Sony, once we get past this like year and a half, I don't see that continuing much longer. I mean, Sony's always been a little iffy with their backwards compatibility anyway. So I feel like that's a, you know, like Marvel's Avengers is going to get a free upgrade. Valhalla is going to be available on both, right? So obviously this first like 6 months to a year, that's going to be a big thing of like, hey, you can still play on your thing. But as we get further and further down the line, it's going to be like Outer Worlds on Switch. It's going to be like, okay, you are clearly trying to cram a lot onto this system and it's starting to show. And at that point, that I feel like in about a year and a half, we'll see that full vision kind of take off. And so
one thing we haven't talked about yet, also announced yesterday, the PlayStation Plus collection, which is basically a PS4 to PS5 Game Pass. That's what it is. Like you can play a bunch of PS4 games on the PS5. They haven't released a lot of information, but a bunch of games were shown that are all like high quality first party titles that people who are playing a PlayStation 5 will want to like play on the PlayStation 5, right? Your God of War, stuff of that nature. Like people are excited to play these if they look even better. So like that could be the answer, right? Obviously there's going to be a pretty, I think it's going to be a longer delay before they start phasing out like PlayStation 4 support. But what's going to happen is you're going to start to see more and more support for this PlayStation Plus collection, assuming it does anything, like it's successful by any, you know, metric, which it should be. Game Pass is wildly popular. There's no reason PlayStation shouldn't have their own version of that.
Yeah, it's crazy that I keep PlayStation Plus around simply for the multiplayer part. Like that you can't access multiplayer without it. I forget I own the games that come with it every month most of the time. There's been like 2 times I've been like, oh, that's great. But I'm just that type of gamer. I feel like Kobe's probably more like that too. Like it's kind of like I'm on to whatever the next thing is. I don't look, it takes a lot. Like it takes a remaster or a remake for me to then pay attention to like an older game. Otherwise, I'm just focused on whatever is next.
All right, there you go. So that's what's coming up on the next gen front. Place your bets, get your pre-orders if you can, and start choosing sides. No, I'm just kidding. Moving right along, we're going to end today from the world of digital video game innovation to going back old school into comics. So let's talk about comics this week. We're going to dive into a couple titles. And first up is, I wanted to talk about this Phoenix Force Avengers real quick.
Oh, God.
What is this? Like, what is this?
Here's the thing. It's Jason Aaron, so I feel like it'll be good.
So just to give people, in case you're just listening, Marvel put out this kind of teaser for this, basically the Phoenix Force kind of mainstay. And here's a read. I'll just read it. The most iconic primordial powers of the Marvel Universe have been central to my... Okay, this is the Avengers run. This is Lionel Francis Yu. This is just about the Phoenix Force kind of coming back. And it's who gets the Phoenix Force, which is now, I guess, become just like a Marvel MacGuffin, like worthy of anybody to hold. And so now people are going to be battling it out in Enter the Phoenix event.
So it's Jason Aaron. I'm going to keep repeating
Matt,
that.
who is it? Is it Jason Aaron?
Okay, so one, so the people on the cover are actually interesting because I honestly just assumed it would be the entire Avengers group that is currently in the book, which it's not because like Namor's on there. I don't know where he came from. There's like, I mean, there's Hulk, Iron Fist, but like there's no Ghost Rider is a current part of the books, and so there's no Captain Marvel. There's a couple of people missing. And there's no Iron Man either, from what I remember anyway on the cover. So that'll be interesting. This follows right up of Age of Khonshu. This will be the next thing, and whatever happens in that one is going to inform some of the why the Phoenix is essentially picking their next host like this. So I'm hoping that makes sense. The Phoenix has been a really interesting part of Aaron's run so far, like with all the Avengers BC stuff, and like that is interesting. But they kind of put that on the back burner to do a bunch of other stuff. So we got this sort of story with the X-Men Phoenix thing.
Yeah.
We all saw how that turned out. That wasn't great. So I'm just fingers crossed that
It's like Marvel's like wondering if they can do something worse than Cyclops Phoenix.
There were when I first saw that design, I wanted that to be awesome.
We all did.
Yeah, that just didn't.
We all did, but it wasn't awesome. So
it is interesting. I do like that it is, again, like Age, like the Moon Knight story. It's just an event within Avengers. So it's not like, so far they haven't done a bunch of tie-ins for that. It's been just contained to that book. Hoping this will be the same and it doesn't like take over a bunch of stuff and we get like Phoenix variants everywhere. Like, hopefully this is just a small thing, and fingers crossed. Jason Aaron.
Just an issue where everybody punches everybody, and each time somebody gets punched, they become another Phoenix. Like, and they punch somebody else and they become a Phoenix. It'd be great. All right. So that nonsense aside, let's jump into the latest about Joker War, the Batman crossover that's happening. So we're coming down to the wire on this thing, and we got the penultimate chapter of Joker War.
Yeah, we're almost there. Batman 100 coming up.
Yeah, and this one was a little bit better. I like this one, actually. It is another. I feel like a lot of this somehow is, again, I feel like a lot of these issues of Joker War have been stage setting for the larger spread out crossover, which has had some interesting storylines in and of itself. But this one did kind of at least bring what I feel is a better thematic focus to this story and kind of set it up for a final battle that actually feels like it could be as fulfilling in its substance as it is in the spectacle. So basically, that's all very vague, and like, let's just get into it. So basically, this issue just sees like Joker and Batman setting their respective stages for the final battle. And for Joker, that's kind of taking his own Batmobile type deal limo ride to Ace Chemical, a nostalgic site for him, and kind of doing a lot of exposition on the way, but basically laying out what his vision of Joker War is and like why he's doing it. While Batman decides to get in touch with his feelings and kind of open up and get with the Bat and reapproach the Bat family. And kind of admit that, he's been closed off since Alfred's been dead and he needs their help. And this is the only way he's going to win this war. And so there's no mystery left. Batman knows what the Joker's planning to kill all of Gotham by luring them to the movie theaters to see the Zorro movie that his parents saw before they died. And then he's going to kill them all. And he knows that Joker wants to have a final fight with him at Ace Chemical. And so he's going to go there and kind of face Joker while the Bat family will handle what's going on in the streets and Joker's big plan to kill everybody in Gotham. Now there are a couple figures caught in the mix of this. We get, I don't know what Clown Hunter's doing anymore. He just shows up on random pages and kind of flexes on murdering clowns. So good for him. But Catwoman's in the mix here, and Harley Quinn, who have both been kind of in the middle of this, are in the mix. Harley,
some of the best parts for me.
Yeah. I mean, Harley actually has a actual good storyline in this where now instead of just Batman having this kind of should I not dilemma about what to do with Joker, she's in on this. And except she's very much in the I'm killing this dude camp. And Batman's now trying to actually defend Joker from her in part. And they have this kind of in Batman Harley stuff can be so terrible because it can get so cheesy and gimmicky. But they actually have a pretty good discussion about, Joker and in their kind of shared dilemma about this guy who's hurt them both and how they're both trying to deal with it, about what to do with him. So, yeah, of course, they go in for the final battle. And, the big spectacle that's going to get us into this final battle is that Joker has his own spoilers. Spoilers, I already got yelled at by comic people online. So spoilers for this.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because we put things in the assignment thing, and for comics we usually just kind of raw put in the ideas, and sometimes I forget to transform them into less spoilery idea. So people in the comics were all up my butt about
Oh,
this.
my bad. That was probably my fault then.
No, it wasn't me. I mean, I have a
I
thinking
probably put
brain.
that headline in there. Sorry.
You did, but I have a thinking brain, and I'm able to change things. So after I got yelled at, I quickly changed it. I mean, there was actually a better title to go with. But yeah, so Joker gets a major costume change, and spoilers, if you want to still hear this. Yeah, he gets his own bat suit. And not just any bat suit, but this bat suit, which is kind of like, I keep calling it Batman's Mithril armor for some reason, because it's just shiny like that. If you've ever played fantasy games, he gets this kind of shiny, like light colored neon suit that was designed for him by Lucius Fox. And what the larger thematic about this story of Joker War and the preceding story, his dark design, was the Batman aspect of it is about Bruce Wayne kind of trying to figure out how to make a change in his career after Alfred's death to be something kind of bigger and better than the Dark Vigilante on both the Bruce Wayne and Batman halves of the coin. So a lot of it was him kind of finding new ways to kind of settle the madness in Gotham by also rebuilding Gotham into a physically new and better and more advanced city through Bruce Wayne. And of course, Joker's whole thing has been to take that goal of Batman's and to twist it and pervert it, as Joker loves to do. And he wants kind of gritty Gotham, chaos, dark to always be that way. And so he takes this suit that Lucius designed for Batman, that when he achieved this brighter, better Gotham, he would be a brighter, better Batman to kind of serve it. And he had this brighter armor, which Joker takes and then paints in a bunch of crazy Joker stuff and puts on so that he can have a final fight with Batman.
Damaged. No,
yeah, no. No, he's not that cheesy. To have a final fight with Batman dressed as this kind of sick Joker reflection of Batman, which is not new. We've seen Joker reflections of Batman before. That Joker like 75-year special had a great story in it, where Joker actually dresses as Batman to go through his own demented training course as Batman to better figure out how to kill Batman. And that's a great story. It's real short, but great. But this is cool because, like I said, there was actually some thematic stuff behind it that we could actually get like a good conversation during this duel, and it won't just be kind of empty, cheesy stuff.
I'm so torn on this issue because I love parts of it.
Yeah.
There are parts of it I like. I love the Harley Batman stuff. I think that whole conversation, and I love how open and ended it is, because at one point, Bruce is like, "I will stop you," and she's like, They continue on. They're talking. She's like, "I'm going to kill him if I see him. Like, unless you kill me now, I'm going to do that." And then he just like walks off. Like, he doesn't actually say anything else. Like, it's almost like he's just reserved that in his brain. Like, you're left wondering, like, is he just gonna let it happen? There's just that little bit of question. He didn't kill him, but will he let someone else? So that was really interesting. I did find it funny that Joker just like had a monologue to himself in the car. I thought he was talking to somebody, and then like at the end, there's nobody there, and I'm like, oh, so he's just he's just saying all that stuff out loud. That's kind of weird. Clown Hunter, I agree. I don't know what the point is. That seemed like a really interesting thing, and then like it's just gone nowhere, so I don't know.
He's not like, and if you're just reading the main Joker War, he's not a character. He's just like some weird figure kid that, if this was like a cartoon, it would just be that weird kid that is like a running theme of the cartoon that just shows up every couple scenes and you just see him.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Now the Bat Family stuff I loved, but it's one of those things, like I'm kind of torn on it, because there are times where I'm like, so I've read a lot of Batman comics. I'm tired of, it feels like every 6 months we have this same thing about Batman.
Yeah, family therapy.
It's just like well, I should have called you in sooner. I was hiding in myself. Duh! Yeah. I could have told you that at the very beginning. Yeah. You've had the same thing, and that's why I loved, like, and some of the Alfred stuff has been good here, but it's not been like that one King issue. That one King issue dealt with more of that nitty-gritty, interesting, emotional stuff with him and Alfred than, to me, this whole series
without any dialogue and just a voice recording and a scene of Batman trapped in a room. So like, it's been
like, so you have these things to kind of hold it up against, and it's good, and there are parts I really like, but it's just not. I keep waiting for that thing to hit. Now we're almost at the final thing. So I don't know. Maybe
you've described my reaction to Joker War as a whole. It's so hit and miss, and it's just like, there are things that I think are really good. Like, I do really think that had this been like Tom King's story, and it would have focused entirely more on Bruce Wayne's kind of ideas about building a city and Joker's ideas about perverting a city and doing that, like that would have been great. Like more just introspective sequences of like those fantasies that Bruce was imagining of the life and the world that he could build, and Joker kind of always invading and kind of corrupting that. Like that would be a great psychological story about what Batman or Joker has kind of done to Batman over time, and like why he might need to exercise that mentally as well as beat this guy down and or kill him. Like there's a lot of that. And so there are these thematic ideas here, but it's also lost in a bunch of kind of like really like, I mean, comic booky, like just bubblegum kind of crazy nonsense. Like the big war, which I mean, I feel like obviously got out of Tynion's hand because I don't feel like I've seen a big war or covered like a huge conflict, or it doesn't feel that big.
I think most of the war took place in the tie-ins. And
Yeah.
I feel like this is very much a series that kind of, that thing we talk about where it's like sometimes the tie-ins are great because they fill in gaps. I feel like you need to read the tie-ins to really get that sense, because otherwise you just, I felt like last issue, like I've known that Gotham is under siege, but then this issue, it's like freaking World War III out there, like everything's smoking. I'm like, when did that happen?
Or just California and Washington right now.
I mean, yeah, right. But like, it seemed like a big jump from where we were last time to now, where it's just like.
And these issues, this issue makes me like, I have to now go back and read the Detective Comics arcs, like, and see how that, because they do a bunch. They rescue Lucius, they like do some other stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's all very crucial stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of ideas here, and I think also you and I talked about this right when Tynion started after King, like that first issue, and it was just like, there's a lot of exposition that gets done. Like the whole Joker sequence is funny because I think he's talking to the limo driver who he kills subsequently afterwards.
Okay, that's true, yeah.
And but because I was during the thing, I was like, man, Joker's sharing a lot with like a random like henchman. I was like, oh well, he's dead. That makes sense. But yeah, but it's all I mean, it's just exposition, right? Like it's just straight up exposition. So mixed bag, Joker War. I'm hoping that the final issue in the kind of Batman versus Joker Batman will actually be like a memorable battle, and we get some kind of meaningful resolution. I think Nicole Drum took an article I kind of suggested, which is that I think a lot of the deeper things in a better executed plan, this is because what I kind of get is that there's a lot about this that makes me feel like it's dealing with a lot of what came out of the 80s era of Batman and the idea of both Batman and the Joker that were created in that 80s era. The kind of darker, edgier Batman, the loner, the kind of after Jason Todd died, and we got Year One and Dark Knight Returns and Killing Joke, and kind of moving on from that, which is a bigger order than I think maybe this creative team was up to the challenge of handling. But I feel like that's where we're going at the end of this, and that we're like kind of having a ceremonial putting to bed of this dark and gritty era of Batman and Joker, because that's what I think the shiny armor is about and all that. And even if we don't get shiny armor, the ideal is that Batman can be more than this thing we've been mired in since the 80s and the 80s movie and, the darker costumes and all that. And there can be something besides, the madness and the trauma and all that. And there can be something besides that.
Interesting. Yeah. No,
which is
definitely
timely, which can be timely because I was writing in like the notes of that article, like, I don't know. I mean, when you begin to look at what's happening in the world is like Batman, vigilantism, your own personal law and order, type deal is maybe not as popular as it once was. And coming out and him being tough and beating down criminals and doing all that, there are other issues to consider these days. So it's going to be interesting to see if they stick the landing and if any of what I just said is good or is much better than what we actually get. So,
did you have a chance to read Iron Man?
I did. I finished it as we were kind of sitting here. So, I just want to quickly touch on Iron Man because Iron Man 2020 I thought was actually really interesting. So this basically is a new era for Tony Stark, and it's a start from scratch. And it's almost like I was laughing because it felt like this series would pick up and fill in the gap if this were in the MCU between Iron Man 3 and Avengers, I think, Age of Ultron. Because there is this unexplained gap in the MCU where Tony Stark at the end of Iron Man 3 is like, F-suits, I don't need any of this. like, I'm done. And he walks away all triumphant. And then Avengers Age of Ultron, he's like, back in the suit. Let's go catch some Hydra. Like, yeah, you never find out why. But it's interesting. He's kind of moving on. He's divesting from Stark Industries and the money. He's giving up like all the high tech stuff. He's kind of moving away from tech, and he's trying to reinvent himself and get back to the quote unquote man inside Iron Man.
It's a great hook, by the way. It's
yeah.
a great line when he says that.
The dialogue in this is really good. Like, and he's having trouble because he is Tony Stark, and you know the psychology of Tony Stark. I mean, the biggest thing Tony Stark can't beat is getting over himself. So even in this quest, he gets help from Trish Walker, Hellcat, who is a great, like, just totally unexpected person.
But yes, by the way, it's one of those characters where you feel like whoever's writing, I can't remember first name, but Cantwell, blanking on first name, but whoever is writing a book just comes in. Like, that's why, like, when Bendis wrote books, it was like, oh, Luke Cage shows up because he loved Luke Cage. Like, there are certain characters that, like, just writers like. I feel like this is one of those, like, I want Hellcat in here. Doesn't matter how I fit her in. I'm gonna fit her in. But yeah, I agree. I really love.
Well, that was the thing, like, because I love it when creative teams do things that make me realize, like, there are things I didn't really realize before. And like, yeah, Christopher Cantwell is the writer. And yeah, Trish Walker and Tony Stark makes sense because they are from that line of Marvel heroes who exist as socialites and in that circles of fame and society and stuff like that. And so you don't put it together in your brain until you actually see them in this scene. You're like, yeah, and it's just great because they're at a socialite, like, famous person party with a bunch of mover shakers, and they're just like running to each other in a room, and you're like, oh yeah, that would totally make sense because they are these two characters.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. And so like, yeah. And Hellcat does a good job trying to call Tony on his BS and kind of.
That dialogue was so good. Like, and I also, like, there's other hints of that too throughout, right? Like when he tries to go buy the car.
Yeah.
And then they're like, the car is not, you can't just buy an old car and
oh yeah, you could tell that Caldwell, like, he wanted to get that was personal. Like,
it was like, no, you can't, and then I love her when
you're
she's
not gonna
like,
fix your life with some car.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, and then she's like, that's still your ego. Like, it's still your ego talking, despite your, like, now it's just faux ego. Now it's like you're a martyr. And that stuff is really interesting. I love that he went back to the oldish suit. It's still got some tech in it, but like, and also, like, he gave away money and like he did a bunch of stuff with it, but he still took out, like, he's got an umbrella thing that's like, I forget what astronomical amount of money it is.
He had $65 billion. He gave away 20. I think it's $45 billion.
And he's even addresses, he's like, I gave away this much, and they're like, you still don't.
Yeah, and the interview is great because, and like, just how this is put together is great because they don't just do it as a straight up storyline. It uses media and technology and other things. Like, throughout it, there's a TV interview he's doing. There's the whole montage throughout the early part of the book with the cars, with the voiceovers about him trying to find the right car to kind of buy, and that'll make him feel this thing he wants to feel.
Yeah.
That's kind of vintage, and having he gets like an old muscle car, and the internet posts are my favorite, like the Twitter posts.
Oh my god, those are so good.
Yeah, just like throughout about Tony Stark trying to. Basically, and I love the commentary, the deeper psychology of it, because he's trying to do good, but he's also, like you said, it's this vapid Tony Stark way. So he's like trying to make Twitter happy, and ultimately gets just totally owned by Twitter, and eventually just like near the end of the book, it's just like he deletes his account, and it's just like, yeah, Iron Man deletes his account because he can't make people on Twitter. Like, every time he tries to do something, people are just like, I donated a bunch of money to things. Oh, for real, bro? So now you're living a real life of 45 mil? And like the Twitter comments are so good. Like, yeah. It's just like, yeah, that's basically Twitter. Like, I can read comic book characters dealing with Twitter like as a comic all day. Like,
so good.
Oh man. And I also am looking back over the art. Like, I love that he goes to the party with Trish Walker and he's wearing bunny slippers.
I know. I noticed that at some point. I'm like, what? That's amazing.
Because he's just like that level of billionaire that he just.
It's totally a rich person thing.
Oh yeah,
is wear that.
Like knew people from that society circle of New York, and like it was funny. Like I'd be like all stuffy, if like, hey, you want to have dinner with my parents? It'd be awesome. They'll just take us out to this crazy place. And I go, I'm like all dressed up. I'm like, get in a suit jacket. I'm like, hello, sir. Comes in like his sweatpants. He just like snaps his fingers and gets in like an extra table put up. He's like, hey, and I'm like, so this is what rich is doing.
Yeah, this is what money can do.
And like the character cameos are just great. Trish Walker wasn't the only one. We had Unicorn. Like, yeah.
And they made him like a threat.
Yeah,
badass.
like, wow,
holy
yeah.
cow. Yeah.
And Terrax is just in the beginning because
So
like
random.
yeah, Iron Man fighting Terrax. Like you don't think you're gonna see that, but like here we are.
Yeah.
But
they made
all
me
right.
care about an Iron Man book, and that's awesome.
And I don't think I've been as excited about Iron Man or the artwork, the storytelling, and just the feel of it since Extremis. Yeah, and
about right.
yeah, and this is great because I mean I'm actually like I got to say they've done these 2020 relaunches for both Black Widow and Iron Man. I've enjoyed
Black
both.
Widow was really
like,
good too. Yeah.
So,
We didn't get to really talk about Black Widow.
No,
but yeah, that's an
but
excellent one too.
Yeah, and and it kind of just really nails the core characters, and it feels like 70s retro for both of them in a weird kind of way. And I love 70s comics because I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me, and that's where I got into it, was reading all his 70s Marvel and DC comics, and this kind of returns to that flavor, and I'm kind of digging it. So I'm going to keep an eye on this new Iron Man book.
Very much agreed.
All right, I think that's it. That'll do it. Oh yeah.
I wanted to add something.
Yeah.
Variety in their report about She-Hulk, in a very subtle line, said that they're expecting both WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier this year. So,
oh baby.
You better not be teasing him.
Yeah, if you're teasing me,
listen, that's what the Variety story says. I don't know what they're going off of, but I just wanted to share that with you. There's still apparently
there's still hope. Hey guys, that's a good thing to end on. In 2020, guys, there is still hope. Do not give up hope yet. All right, that's a good one to end on. All right, thank you, Brandon Davis. That'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. If you guys are just listening to the show, we put up new episodes every Wednesday and every Friday on comicbook.com, where you can subscribe to our RSS feed for new. We don't have an RSS feed anymore. I don't know why I keep saying that. Just go to comicbook.com Wednesday and Fridays if you want to listen on the site, or you can listen to your favorite podcast platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Google Playlists. You can tell any smart home device to fire up Comic Book Nation podcast, and it'll start playing automatically for you. If you want to see our smiling faces, we air episodes live on Facebook every Wednesday and every Friday, where you can watch the episode live or immediately afterwards if you're just coming on later. And if you want to hit us up, talk to us, drop any kind of topics, or just say what's up, you can find us at the hashtag Comic Book Nation. And you can find me at Kofi Outlaw.
You can find me at Matt Aguilar CB.
I'm at Rollin Bishop.
You can find me at the Opry Mills reserving my PS5.
You better be careful. Somebody will be waiting outside Opry Mills for you. Like,
it's gonna be me.
Yeah, you better.
I don't know who this someone is. That's gonna be me.
Wow. All right, there you heard it. So first stop on the suspects list. So that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. If you like the show, go on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, because of one shining day when we're back in the office, we're going to send everybody who left us 5 stars a nice Comic Book Nation t-shirt. So be sure to get in line for that. You can pre-order that by leaving us a 5-star review. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Comic Book Nation. We'll talk to you guys next time. Stay healthy. Stay checked in. Just try to make it through 2020. Peace.
Deuces.